Hi, I'm Bob Tabor with LearnVisualStudio.net. Now that we've finished the app, it's time to test it and submit it to the store. Now, a word of caution before we continue. At a minimum, your users expect your app to be solid and look professional. With regards to creating a solid user experience, there's only so much you can do by yourself because you have the curse of knowledge. As the developer, your knowledge of the flow and the normal operation of the app creates a certain myopia. You'll quickly find that your users will break your app in new and creative ways. So I would spend some time thinking about the states of the application, particularly any scenario that accepts information from the user in input controls or dialogues. And I would spend some time thinking about exception handling and messages back to the user to help diagnose the problem. I would think about inputs and outputs and edge case scenarios. What if they use strange characters outside of the normal ASCII or extended ASCII range? What if they add two sounds with the same name? What if the program runs out of battery while the user is recording a sound? What if the user clicks one of the hardware buttons while recording or playing back a sound? What if the user fills up isolated storage with custom sounds? Well, as it stands now, that would be a real problem because we don't have a delete sound feature in the app, okay? So with regards to a professional appearance, here again, you have the curse of knowledge, and quite possibly you have a cognitive bias that leads you to think that the flow and the aesthetics of the app look great when your users may think otherwise. So getting feedback, especially from somebody who may study design and usability and so on, that could prove invaluable. I'd get them involved as early and often throughout the development process as possible. The beauty of the Windows design language, formerly known as Metro, is that it pushes you towards a certain aesthetic sensibility. You should study the recommendations from Microsoft in this regard at this URL. I found this to be a great resource. At any rate, even when you're getting creative and you're thinking through the functionality of your app, you're going to miss something. That's why it's good to do a couple of things. First of all, let others see your work, especially those who are not your close friends or family. You want honest feedback. Your family and friends don't want to hurt your feelings if they don't like your work, so they're not going to really tell you what they think. So you need to get some unbiased feedback. Secondly, you want to use the beta test feature of the store before you attempt to sell the app. Now you're opening up your app to more scrutiny and more feedback. However, it's better that you hear that feedback in beta rather than you hear that feedback in the form of negative reviews that pour in and kill your app's chance at success. And then third, even after you sold the app or even if you distribute it for free, be responsive to customer emails, any questions that they might have, any feedback that they might have. Whether you realize it or not, once you publish that app in the store, you're now running a business. And from now on, you need to be the friendliest guy on the planet. If somebody asks for a new feature, ask them for more details and be genuinely interested and give some serious thought to whether that's a viable feature to add or a bug fix, all right? If somebody's frustrated and they use harsh language or tone against your app, well, you gain absolutely nothing by returning the salvo back to them. You need to grow a thick skin and swallow your pride and be the bigger person. From personal experience in handling customers who are displeased over the years, you can turn an enemy into a friend more often than not by choosing your words carefully. And I'd like to recommend to you the time-honored book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. That'll help a lot. All right, and also you're going to need to dedicate a URL and a few pages to your app. You want to include FAQs so people can self-serve for the most common issues. And also you want to understand the impact of low memory on your app. And I suspect that most app crashes have to do with memory constraints or the failure to close a resource like the file system when you're finished working with them. Okay, so all of that to say this, the game plan in this lesson is first of all, we want to perform some compliance testing on our app to make sure that it has a chance to be included in the store on the first pass. And then secondly, we're actually going to walk through the steps to submit our app to the store for what they call ingestion, all right? So to evaluate the readiness of our app for the App Store, we're going to use the Store Test Kit. This will automatically test a few scenarios and suggest other manual tests for you to conduct. Furthermore, it works as a checklist for items that you're going to need in order to submit your app to the store, like promotional images and things of that nature. So to open the store test kit, you want to go to the project menu and then go down to open store test kit about midway through. So this is going to open a new page in the main area, and you'll notice first of all that there are 3 tabs on the left hand side: the application details, automated tests, and manual tests. And so the application details collects basic data about the app, including you'll have to give it a larger version of the main tile that'll be 300 pixels by 300 pixels. Now, if you use the phone store yourself, if you have your own phone and you've gone through there, you can see that each app has a page that's devoted to it with descriptive text and details about the publisher, a page with the ratings and the reviews for the app, and a page of screenshots. And so you're going to supply a lot of that information here, at least for the store test kit, and then you'll obviously be supplying that information in the store itself. The second tab, automated tests, will perform a few tests to ensure the validity of the XAP, the XAP deployment package, and will ensure the images from the application details page are in place as well. And then finally, the manual tests tab will give you a number of suggestions for you to test your app on your own before submitting it. So they're not manual, and you can think of this more like a checklist. It passed it, it failed it, and so on. And so you have the name of the test, and then also the description of the test, the steps that you should take, and then there's obviously a little bit more information about that given test and the requirements that it satisfies for the App Store. Okay. So if you attempt to run the automated tests without doing anything, you'll see very quickly that first of all, the application package is not up to date. Recompile and try again. Change the solution configuration to release and perform any CPU to any CPU and rebuild the app. So that's the first thing that we're going to need to do here. We'll have a couple of issues that we'll need to correct, but the first one we needed to correct is that we're going to need to create a release version of our deployment package. So up to now we've been using a deployment, or a debug version of our package, of our deployment package, which includes additional files that are used to sync up the execution of the code on the emulator or on our physical device with Visual Studio's debugging features, so that you can set breakpoints, you can step through code, and so on. But now we need to create a release version. Now, before I do that, I want to confirm that Visual Studio will create a release version successfully, and that it's configured to be deployed to any CPU per the instructions of that little dialog that we saw a moment ago. So in the toolbar, what I want to do is go from debug, and I'm going to go down to the configuration manager. So the configuration manager dialog appears, and what we want to do is change the active solution configuration from debug to release. All right, and what I want to do is review the project contexts in the main area, ensuring that the configuration is set to release and the platform is set to any CPU. And once I've made sure that that's true, then I can go ahead and close this off and make sure that the release solution configuration is selected, and then I want to choose build solution. And if all goes well, the output window here at the bottom of Visual Studio will indicate whether it was successful or not. Hopefully it'll be successful, and you won't need to fix anything, and we'll be completed with that step. Okay, so now that we have a valid release version of our XAP deployment package, we want to run the tests again. And this time I would expect the XAP deployment package to pass, but you can see we get some failures for iconography and screenshots. Before I set those, what I want to do is look for a button a little bit further down on that page. It says Start Windows Phone Application Analysis. And so if you click this button, that will add a new .sap file to Solution Explorer, as you can see right here, which is a blank performance log file that will capture data about the performance of your app as it runs. So the log file will then be poured over and reported on to let you know how well it runs in certain situations. Notice also that that SAP file is actually loaded here into the main area with a couple of options before you actually run the session that will monitor the app. So rather than spend the time talking about the different types of data and reports that you can generate from monitoring and profiling the options here, I'd recommend that you read what MSDN has to say about it. So take a look at this URL. But at this point, what I'm going to do is merely choose the app analysis monitoring option here at the top, and then I'm going to click the Start Session button. And the app will load into the emulator, and you'll see Visual Studio will display a monitoring message here in just a moment. Okay, so we'll want to go down to our SoundBoard app, and we'll begin clicking on sounds. We can try to record. This is just a test to see if it works for the 6th time. Stop recording, save it, whatever. Whoops, page down, whatever. Click OK. And I might do this for a little bit of while. I want to put the app through its paces and perform the typical use case scenarios. And perhaps even some edge cases and see what will happen. And then whenever we're finished testing the app, we want to click on this End Session link here at the bottom, and the collected data will be analyzed, and a report will be generated, as you can see here. And so you can see that we get some feedback. The app is responsive, the total amount of data that's being uploaded, memory used, and things of that nature. The report includes some interesting details about the app that could help you determine its readiness for the store. I think one of the most important things to look at is the battery consumption and the max memory that's used. But at any rate, now that I've completed this test, I'm going to make sure to ready the images that are needed for the store, such as, you can see here, a 300 by 300 store tile, and then also the screenshots for WVGA, WXGA, and the 720p. All right, so I've already gone through and done this for you. If you want to borrow mine, that's cool. They are in the same folder as the the SoundBoard assets. They're here, these store images, and you can see I have the SoundBoard, which is 300 by 300 pixel PNG, and then I have a number of screenshots, and I'll show you how I took the screenshots in just a moment. You might already know, I have figured out what I'm going to do, but essentially what we're going to do here is I'm going to go back into debug mode, and for each of the different screen sizes, for example the WVGA, I'm going to load up that version of the emulator and run it. And then I'm going to go to the extra tools, and I'm going to go to the screenshot tab on the additional tools and select capture. All right, and then I would save that into a file location on my hard drive, and I would do the same for other the other screens or states of the app that I want to feature as screenshots in the store. All right, so that's how I would do that, is just take them in that manner, and then I repeat that process, like I said a moment ago, for each of the different screen sizes that I'm going to support in my app, for 720p and for WXGA as well. All right, so that's what I've essentially done here, and you can see I've taken 2 screenshots for each of the screen sizes, and you can use this if you want to try and submit your app to the store as well. So now let's go here to the store test kit, and I'm just going to begin to add them in. And I'll just go to, let's see, let's go to my documents, C9 Phone 8, SoundBoard assets, and because you're going to be opening this dialog up like a bunch of times, what you might want to do is just kind of create a link. You can just drag the folder from here, and I think you can just create it, yeah, like that. So now it's in your favorites, so you can get back here really easily from this point on. And then when you're done, using this folder, you can just right-click and then delete that favorite. That's a little tip. It saved me a little bit of time having to navigate through my documents every time I want to add another image to the store test kit. All right, so the first one we want to add is the 300 by 300 pixel store tile. So we got that. And then we're going to start by adding WVGA screenshots. So let's look for the WVGA 01. WVGA 02, and we'll just repeat that process for WXGA, WXGA 01, WXGA02, and then the 720p, 720p01, and 720p02. All right. And now, let's go ahead and save all that. So let's go back to automated tests and rerun the tests. Oh boy, okay. Let's go ahead and set back to release and now rebuild the solution. And now hopefully that will satisfy all the tests. All right, and it does. Very cool. So I have manual tests that I need to consider, and it would be worth our time to go through all of these, but you can see there are a bunch of them, and I'm not going to do that for the purposes of this video. But if I were releasing a real product out into the Windows Store, I definitely would want to give these some thought. Okay. All right, so now I want to publish my app, and honestly, this is a multi-day process. I'm not 100% confident at this point that the app will even pass the first time. However, I do want to give you an idea of the submission process. It's really not that scary at all. It sounds scarier than it really is. So it's important to keep in mind that this site, the dev.windowsphone.com, changes often. So whatever I show you here is probably going to be different the next time you look at it. Just read the instructions and follow along. But let me give you some idea of how this will work. We're going to make sure that we're signed in, first of all. Okay. And then I'm going to go to the Publish tab, and then I want to submit an app. And you can see here that there's this checklist of items that we need to fill out. It contains a series of tasks, many of which are optional depending on the features of your app and how you hope to monetize it. All right, so I'm going to click on the App Info link, and that'll take you to the App Info page. And here I'm going to fill in some basic information like the name or the alias of the app. So SoundBoard, and then I'm going to choose a category and potentially a subcategory. So I'm going to choose Entertainment, and I'm going to leave the pricing at 0. I'll have some other options here like offer free trials. If I were charging money for this app, I might want to offer a free trial. If you're going to charge for your app as opposed to a freemium or advertising model, then are you going to allow for free trials? In some cases, this makes sense. In other cases, it might make less sense. So I hear that in general, trials do help sales, but I'm not sure that it really probably depends more on the type of app and your target audience. So further down on that page, you can see there's a market distribution option. The double chevron here for more options. You can see that we can choose to put it in the public store or choose a beta experience, which I recommended at the very outset. It might help to just invite individuals to use your app. They can download them through the store and use it and then provide feedback. It might be a great way to get some feedback before you actually try to sell your app. And then finally, further down on that page, we can have it automatically publish the app once it's approved, or you can choose to say, approve the app, but don't publish it right away. And that's the option that I want to choose because I don't want this in the store since it's a freebie and I'm not ready to support it. I just want to show you what the process is of getting this into the store in the first place or getting it approved. So the last option is to add an MPNS certificate. So that MPNS is the Microsoft Push Notification Service for Windows Phone. It allows you to send messages from a server to a user's phone securely. So imagine, for example, a long-running, massively multiplayer casual online game. So when the player's home planet is about to be attacked by another player, the game could notify that an attack is imminent, and this might be a premium upgrade in the game. It would give the player a chance to move his forces into place and get ready for the battle. But this service costs money, so you need to use it judiciously, and we're not talking about it in this series of lessons, but it's a cool feature if you ever need that type of rich integration with the rest of the phone, and I believe it'll work even for Windows 8 store apps as well. But since we don't need that, I'm just going to click Save. All right, so after you click the Save button, you're going to return to the Submit App page. You can see this first step is marked as complete, and now that opens up this Upload and Describe Your Zap. So let's go ahead and click that task. And here what we're going to want to do is to add a new zap. So I'm going to click Add New. I'm just going to ask where it can locate it. I'm going to go to my Projects, SoundBoard app, SoundBoard bin, release, And I think that's what we want. The SoundBoard release anycpu.zap, and I'll click OK. And it might take a few moments to upload your zap, especially if you have a lot of image or sound resources embedded in the zap. And it might depend a lot as well on the speed of your internet connection. Okay, but once the zap is uploaded, you'll see that it's analyzed and its details are displayed here below with its capabilities, the English, the resolutions that are supported, and so on. I suspect it gets a lot of that information from the wm-app-manifest.xaml file or .xml file. And further down, you can see where you can modify the zap's store listing information. So, for example, you can create different versions of this, but we're only going to choose to change the English language, since that's the only one that we had selected for this app in our WM app manifest. All right, but we got to create a description. So let me type this out. All right, and then you can specify some keywords that might be used as search phrases. So SoundBoard, sounds, maybe channel 9 in this case, because somebody might be looking for channel 9 apps. SoundBoard with a space between sound and board, and I don't know. We'll just do a silly one, quack. Okay. Next, we're going to upload the images. First of all, we're going to add an app tile icon that's 300 by 300. And all we need to do is just click on the little plus in the middle of the gray area. And I believe this was in our documents directory, C9 phone. Oh, yeah, right. We had the store images shortcut now. So I'm just going to use that and select the SoundBoard 300 by 300 PNG. You can also choose a 1000 by 800 pixel background image, and that's used to further brand your store page. And so it might, here again, be great to get a graphic artist involved who can build, a background. And you'll see this for some of the more popular games. They'll have their own custom background in the store page, and it just makes it look like you've put a little bit more time into your app. Now you can see this option here. We can upload the WXGA screenshots, and then it will automatically create the lower resolution screenshots for the 720 and the WVGA. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that option selected, and I'll go here to C9 phone, store images, and we'll choose WXGA01 and WXGA02. All right, and then finally I'm going to click the Save button. And this will return me to the Submit App page with the second task complete now. Awesome. Further down on this page, you see a bunch of optional tasks. Now, in our case, we're not using Microsoft's in-app advertising platform, nor are we going to worry about customizing the pricing on a per market basis, so a different price for different countries or regions, nor are we going to need to enable the map service, which will provide actually some API credentials for use in our app. This last option, however, will be important if we were to build, for the next app that we're going to build. If we were going to try to release that app into the store, we need to start here with some with getting credentials, and I'll actually reference this much later as we get to that point, but for now we're just going to ignore that, and I'm going to click the Review and Submit button. And this review submission page is really your last chance to catch an error before you submit the app to the store for review. So nearer to the bottom of that page, you can see the option to either submit or go back and edit. I'm going to click the Submit button. And hopefully, if I do this right, if everything went smoothly, I will see the app submission successful page. Okay, so as the text says, it could take up to 5 business days, and you'll be notified via email whether your app is certified for inclusion in the store or not. Now, because of the magic of video editing, I waited for about 4 days, and I received the email that you see on screen right now. Success. I had nothing up my sleeve. This was actually what we worked on. It worked, and so the good news here is it was a very simple process. We just had to supply a little bit of information, do a little bit of legwork, and we were able to submit our first app to the store. You won't see it in the store because I didn't release it into the store automatically. I'd have to go back and select and say, yes, I want that app in the store now. And I just chose not to do that. Okay? So basically, the recap for this lesson, the main takeaway for this lesson, was the thought process of testing and submitting, promoting, and supporting your app. And so there are some tools like the Store Test Kit that can help you get your assets all collected and ready for submission. But beyond that, you're going to want to get your app in the hands of others to try it and to provide feedback throughout the entire development process, as well as create a beta program for your app. These steps, along with good artwork, screenshots, good descriptions, and responsiveness on your part to your users after the sale, will help ensure the success of your app in the store. All right. So, seems like this series should be over by now. But it's not. We got a whole other app we're going to build. And so we're going to start on that in the very next lesson. We'll see you there. Thank you.